In the harsh world of medieval peasants, survival was an art honed by necessity. Faced with biting winters, limited resources, and the unyielding demands of feudal life, these resilient individuals crafted ingenious solutions to endure the coldest nights and harshest conditions. Their story is one of quiet strength, a testament to human ingenuity and community resilience. Through 12 chapters, we will explore the intricate systems that allowed peasants to thrive against the odds, from the design of their humble dwellings to the management of fire, clothing, food, and social bonds. Each aspect of their lives was a carefully balanced strategy for survival. These practices, once dismissed as primitive, reveal remarkable sophistication and offer timeless lessons for modern challenges. This is more than history. It is a reflection of how tradition, innovation, and cooperation can overcome even the toughest adversities. Join us as we uncover the forgotten wisdom of medieval survival and discover its relevance for today's world. The year was 1327, and the small village of Wickenham, nestled in a frost-bitten valley of what would later become southeastern England. This community of approximately 200 souls existed at the mercy of nature's whims, where the concept of comfort barely extended beyond basic survival. The landscape itself seemed locked in perpetual struggle against the elements, rolling hills of thin soil, stubbornly clinging to existence beneath the ever-present threat of erosion, while ancient forests encroached upon fields that had been painstakingly cleared by generations of determined hands. Wickenham's inhabitants occupied a rigid social hierarchy that dictated every aspect of their lives. At the top stood Lord Alaric Fitzwalter, whose stone keep dominated the horizon like a permanent reminder of feudal authority. Below him served his bailiff, Gregory of Tunbridge, who maintained order through a combination of stern discipline and carefully calculated terror. The village proper consisted primarily of villeins, peasants bound to the land they worked, alongside a smaller number of freemen who enjoyed marginally better circumstances but remained equally vulnerable to nature's caprices. Life followed an unyielding rhythm dictated by both season and obligation. Dawn marked the beginning of labor that would continue until dusk, interrupted only by brief moments of prayer and sustenance. Each family occupied a croft, a narrow strip of land surrounding their modest dwelling, where they cultivated barley, oats, and rye using primitive tools that had changed little since Roman times. These implements included the wooden ard plow, inefficient scythes, and handheld sickles, all maintained through careful repair rather than replacement. The village infrastructure reflected both necessity and limitation. A central green provided space for livestock grazing and occasional markets, while a cluster of essential buildings, the mill, the bakehouse, and the blacksmith's forge, formed the heart of communal activity. The church, dedicated to Saint Cuthbert, stood slightly apart from these practical structures, its weathered stones bearing witness to countless generations of worship and despair. Surrounding this nucleus sprawled the peasants' dwellings, wattle and daub cottages with thatched roofs, each home to families that often numbered 8 or more members. These dwellings, though crude by modern standards, represented years of accumulated knowledge about surviving the harsh climate. Walls were constructed from interwoven branches packed with clay and straw, providing some insulation against the biting winds that swept through the valley. Roofs, made from bundles of reeds or wheat straw, needed constant maintenance to prevent leaks during the frequent rains. Inside, the single room served multiple purposes. Cooking, sleeping, and crafting took place in close proximity, creating an environment where privacy was virtually non-existent. The community's relationship with nature was one of intimate dependence and perpetual conflict. Forests provided firewood, game, and building materials, yet also harbored wolves and other predators that threatened livestock. Rivers offered water for drinking and irrigation but regularly flooded during spring thaws, destroying crops and sometimes entire dwellings. The very soil that sustained them demanded constant attention, requiring annual following and careful rotation of crops to prevent exhaustion of its limited fertility. This precarious existence was further complicated by the obligations imposed by the feudal system. Villains owed several days of labor each week to their lord, working his domain lands regardless of their own needs. Additional taxes in kind, portions of grain, eggs, wool, and other produce flowed upward through the social hierarchy, leaving many families with barely enough to sustain themselves. Yet despite these burdens, the villagers maintained complex networks of mutual support, sharing tools, seeds, and labor during planting and harvest seasons. The physical demands of daily life left their mark on every inhabitant. Men typically reached heights no greater than 5 feet, 6 inches. Their bodies stunted by poor nutrition and hard labor begun in childhood. Women bore children frequently, often losing several in infancy, their faces lined with worry and toil before reaching middle age. Children learned early that survival required relentless effort, gathering firewood, tending animals, and helping with household chores as soon as they could walk steadily. Time itself moved differently in Wickenham, measured not by clocks but by natural rhythms and ecclesiastical cycles. The changing length of daylight marked the progression of seasons, while church bells signaled important moments in the liturgical calendar. Market days occurred weekly, bringing traders from neighboring villages and temporary relief from isolation. Major festivals punctuated the year, offering rare opportunities for celebration and social interaction beyond immediate family circles. Despite the apparent simplicity of their lives, the villagers possessed sophisticated knowledge about their environment. They understood the subtle signs that predicted weather changes, knew which plants could be used for medicine or dye, and maintained oral traditions that preserved centuries of agricultural wisdom. This collective knowledge formed the foundation of their survival strategy, passed down through generations in stories, songs, and practical demonstrations. As autumn gave way to winter each year, the village prepared for its greatest challenge. Hayricks were stacked high against potential shortages, root vegetables stored in underground pits, and animals brought closer to human dwellings for protection. The coming months would test every aspect of their carefully constructed existence, demanding not just physical endurance but mental resilience and community cooperation. For the people of Wickenham, survival was not merely a matter of individual strength, but a collective endeavor that required everyone to contribute according to their ability. In this harsh world, innovation emerged not from grand ideas but from incremental improvements born of necessity. New techniques for preserving food, more efficient methods of spinning wool, and better ways of waterproofing roofs appeared gradually, each small advancement potentially meaning the difference between life and death during the long winter months. The community's ability to adapt while maintaining tradition exemplified the delicate balance they struck between progress and preservation, a dance that would continue for centuries to come. The typical peasant dwelling of medieval Wickenham represented centuries of accumulated wisdom about managing extreme temperatures, particularly during the brutal winter months. These structures, known locally as longhouses, measured approximately 25 feet in length and 15 feet in width, their dimensions dictated by the available construction materials and the need to conserve heat. The walls, constructed using the wattle and daub technique, formed the primary barrier against the elements. Vertical stakes of hazel or willow were woven together to create a lattice framework, then packed tightly with a mixture of clay, straw, dung, and sometimes crushed chalk. This composite material, when properly applied and allowed to dry slowly, created walls roughly 6 inches thick that provided surprising insulation against the penetrating cold. Roof construction presented perhaps the greatest challenge in maintaining interior warmth. Thatched roofs, composed of bundled reeds or wheat straw, required careful layering to achieve effective weatherproofing. Skilled thatchers employed a technique called sparring, using wooden rods to secure layers of thatch in overlapping rows. The finished roof, ideally 18 inches thick at its peak, featured a steep pitch designed to shed snow efficiently while allowing smoke from the central hearth to escape. Regular maintenance proved crucial, as wind damage and bird activity could quickly compromise the integrity of the thatch. Most families allocated a portion of their summer labor to producing new thatching materials, ensuring they had sufficient reserves for necessary repairs. The interior layout of these dwellings emphasized functionality over comfort. A single room served as living quarters, kitchen, and workspace, its design reflecting the need to maximize heat retention. The most critical feature was the central hearth, usually located slightly off-center to allow for optimal air circulation. Constructed from local stone or compacted earth, the hearth measured approximately 4 feet square and served multiple purposes. During the day, it functioned as the primary cooking area, while at night it became the focus of family life and warmth. Above the hearth, a simple iron pot hook suspended cooking vessels, while a rudimentary chimney hood, often made from woven branches coated with mud, helped direct smoke toward roof vents. Sleeping arrangements demonstrated remarkable efficiency in heat conservation. Raised wooden platforms, typically measuring 6 feet by 3 feet, lined 2 walls of the dwelling. These beds, positioned above ground level to take advantage of rising warm air, were filled with dried grasses or straw and covered with woolen blankets. Families slept communally, with parents occupying one platform and children another, their body heat combining to maintain warmth throughout the night. During particularly severe weather, livestock might be brought into an adjacent section of the dwelling, separated by a low wooden partition, their presence providing additional heat through body warmth and respiration. Windows posed a significant challenge in maintaining interior temperature. Glass remained prohibitively expensive for peasant households, so openings were kept small and covered with oiled parchment or thin animal gut to admit limited light while reducing heat loss. Shutters, crafted from wood or woven branches, could be closed completely during storms or freezing nights. The door, typically facing south to capture maximum sunlight, featured a heavy wooden frame stuffed with moss or wool around its edges to minimize drafts. Storage areas within the dwelling incorporated thermal management principles. Grain and root vegetables were kept in shallow pits dug into the earthen floor, their contents insulated by layers of straw and earth. Cheese and other perishables hung from ceiling beams near the hearth, benefiting from the consistent warmth without being directly exposed to fire. Water storage presented particular challenges, as freezing temperatures could burst containers. Families developed ingenious solutions, such as keeping water in small quantities in metal pots near the hearth or utilizing deep wooden buckets wrapped in insulating materials. Fuel management represented a crucial aspect of dwelling design and operation. Wood piles were maintained under protective lean-tos attached to the southern wall of the house, allowing for easy access while minimizing exposure to elements. The hearth itself featured a stone-lined ash pit that facilitated efficient burning and heat retention. Experienced householders developed techniques for banking fires overnight, covering embers with ashes to preserve heat while preventing excessive consumption of precious fuel. This practice, combined with the insulating properties of the dwelling's construction, helped maintain tolerable interior temperatures even during the coldest nights. The floor played an important role in thermal regulation. While wealthy households might boast stone or tiled floors, peasant dwellings featured carefully compacted earth mixed with clay and straw. This surface absorbed heat during the day and released it slowly at night, contributing to more stable interior temperatures. Families maintained this flooring through regular sweeping and occasional reapplication of fresh material, ensuring it remained both functional and hygienic. Ventilation, while necessary to prevent dangerous smoke accumulation, had to be carefully controlled. Small openings near the roofline, covered with adjustable wooden shutters, allowed for air circulation without creating drafts. The positioning of these vents, combined with the placement of the hearth and sleeping platforms, demonstrated sophisticated understanding of air movement within enclosed spaces. During severe weather, families might seal these openings completely, relying on the careful management of fire and body heat to maintain breathable air quality. Special adaptations emerged in response to specific regional conditions. In areas prone to flooding, dwellings featured raised foundations constructed from stone or compacted earth. Some families developed double-walled construction techniques, filling the space between inner and outer walls with additional insulating materials. Others incorporated features such as stone-lined fireplaces or improved chimney designs when resources permitted, though these remained relatively rare among peasant households. The evolution of these dwellings reflected continuous experimentation and adaptation. Successful innovations spread quickly through communities, often transmitted through marriage alliances or seasonal labor migrations. Each generation added its own refinements, resulting in structures that, while appearing primitive to modern eyes, represented highly optimized solutions to the challenges of medieval rural life. The dwellings of Wickenham stood as testament to human ingenuity in the face of environmental adversity, their design embodying centuries of accumulated knowledge about surviving the harshest winters. The central hearth of a medieval peasant's home stood as both literal and metaphorical heart of survival during the unforgiving winter months. Its management required constant attention and specialized knowledge passed down through generations of experience. Fuel acquisition began long before the first frost, with families devoting entire summers to gathering and processing wood. The preferred species varied by region, but in Wickenham, seasoned oak and ash formed the backbone of winter fuel supplies, supplemented by beech and hornbeam when available. Youngsters spent countless hours collecting fallen branches, while adults methodically coppiced woodland areas managed through ancient agreements with the lord of the manor. Wood preparation involved more than simple collection. Proper seasoning proved crucial for efficient burning. Freshly cut timber contained up to 50% water by weight, making it nearly impossible to ignite and producing dense, choking smoke when burned. Families constructed elaborate drying racks behind their homes, arranging split logs in precise patterns that maximized air circulation while protecting them from rain. The ideal drying period lasted 12 to 18 months, requiring forward planning that spanned multiple seasons. During periods of abundance, excess wood was buried in specially prepared pits to prevent rotting and preserve its quality for future winters. Fire maintenance followed strict protocols honed through bitter experience. Morning began with the delicate task of reviving banked embers from the previous night. Using bellows crafted from animal bladders and hollowed-out logs, householders coaxed life back into the dormant coals before adding carefully selected kindling. This initial stage demanded particular skill. Too much air caused rapid cooling, while insufficient oxygen resulted in smothering smoke. Once established, the fire required constant adjustment based on weather conditions, household activities, and available fuel. Experienced managers could gauge the perfect size and intensity by observing flame color, smoke density, and the characteristic crackle of burning wood. Smoke management represented another crucial aspect of heating strategy. While some believed smoke helped preserve food and repel vermin, excessive accumulation could cause serious health problems and structural damage. Families developed sophisticated techniques for controlling airflow, using adjustable vents and strategically placed screens to direct smoke toward designated escape routes. The traditional belief that smoke cured respiratory ailments led to careful monitoring of its distribution within the dwelling, with certain areas intentionally maintained at higher concentrations during illness outbreaks. Heat distribution within the home demanded equal attention. The central location of the hearth ensured even radiation, but families enhanced this effect through clever architectural features. Stone or clay-lined channels embedded in the earthen floor conducted warmth to sleeping areas, while reflective surfaces created from polished metal or burnished clay helped redirect heat toward living spaces. During severe cold spells, families might construct temporary partitions from woven branches and daub to create smaller, more easily heated sections of the dwelling. Fuel conservation strategies evolved into an art form, with each household developing unique methods tailored to their specific circumstances. One common technique involved creating fire breaks, periods when the main blaze was reduced to glowing embers while alternative heat sources, such as heated stones or metal plates, maintained essential warmth. These secondary sources could be strategically placed near sleeping areas or workspaces, reducing the need for constant large-scale burning. Another innovation involved the use of smoking stones, large rocks heated in the fire then wrapped in damp cloths to release gentle warmth over extended periods. The social organization of fire management reflected broader community dynamic. Certain families gained reputations as expert firekeepers, their advice sought during difficult weather periods. Elderly women, often dismissed in historical accounts, played crucial roles in teaching younger generations the subtleties of temperature regulation. Specialized tools, from intricate bellows systems to precisely balanced fire irons, became symbols of status and expertise. sometimes commissioned from local blacksmiths as investment pieces intended to last multiple lifetimes. Emergency heating measures stood ready for extreme situations. Stored peat, though less efficient than wood, provided backup fuel during shortages. Animal dung, when properly dried and processed, offered another alternative, particularly valued for its slow-burning properties. Some families maintained emergency fire-starting kits containing flint, steel, and specially treated tinder, recognizing that losing the central flame could prove catastrophic during severe weather. The development of fire insurance arrangements, where neighbors agreed to share embers during crises, demonstrated the community's recognition of heating as a collective survival imperative. Seasonal variations required different approaches to fire management. Autumn saw the transition from open-air cooking to indoor preparation, with adjustments made to ventilation and fuel consumption accordingly. Spring brought its own challenges, as melting snow increased interior humidity levels that affected combustion efficiency. Summer maintenance focused on preserving the hearth structure and preparing fuel supplies for the coming winter, while simultaneously addressing any structural issues that might compromise heating effectiveness. The economic implications of heating extended far beyond immediate survival concerns. Firewood represented a significant portion of a family's resources, influencing everything from crop selection to provide fuel breaks to livestock management. For manure-based fuels, the need to maintain adequate supplies affected decisions about childbearing, labor allocation, and even marriage arrangements. Successful heating strategies often determined which families prospered and which struggled, creating subtle class distinctions within the broader peasant community. Technological innovations in heating emerged gradually, often adapting existing tools for new purposes. The development of more efficient bellows systems, improved chimney designs, and specialized cooking vessels all contributed to better heat management. Local craftsmen experimented with various materials and configurations, sometimes incorporating ideas from traveling merchants or returning crusaders. These advances, though seemingly minor, could make substantial differences in comfort and survival rates during harsh winters. The psychological impact of maintaining a successful heating system cannot be overstated. The constant presence of the hearth fire provided not only physical warmth but emotional security. Its steady glow symbolized continuity and stability in a world of uncertainty, while the rituals surrounding its care fostered family cohesion and community identity. The skills required for effective fire management commanded respect and admiration, contributing to the social fabric of medieval rural life in ways that transcended mere technical competence. The clothing worn by medieval peasants represented far more than mere fashion. It constituted a sophisticated system of thermal protection developed through centuries of trial and error. At its core lay the principle of layering, where multiple garments worked in concert to trap body heat while allowing for essential moisture management. The innermost layer, typically a linen camise or undertunic, served as the foundation of this system. Made from finely woven flax fibers, this garment provided direct skin contact while maintaining breathability. Its loose fit facilitated air circulation, preventing the dangerous buildup of sweat that could lead to hypothermia when exposed to cold air. Over the camise came the primary insulating layer, tunics constructed from wool, the cornerstone of medieval textile technology. Unlike modern fabrics, medieval wool retained much of its natural lanolin content, providing exceptional water resistance while maintaining remarkable warmth. Peasants favored medium-weight wools for daily wear, reserving heavier varieties for severe weather. The weaving techniques employed by local spinners and weavers created fabrics with varying densities, allowing for strategic placement of thicker sections over vital organs, while maintaining mobility in arms and legs. Experienced seamstresses incorporated complex stitching patterns that trapped air pockets within the fabric, enhancing its insulating properties. Outer garments demonstrated particular ingenuity in their construction. The surcoat, a knee-length overgarment worn by both men and women, featured a distinctive design that prioritized practicality over aesthetics. Its generous cut allowed for layering multiple garments underneath, while strategically placed vents enabled rapid temperature adjustment. The sleeves, often detachable, could be removed during periods of intense labor or added for extra warmth during rest. Wealthier peasants might line their surcoats with fur, typically rabbit or sheepskin, though regulations strictly controlled the types of fur permissible for different social classes. Footwear presented unique challenges in cold weather protection. Basic leather shoes, while common, offered limited insulation against frozen ground. Resourceful families developed layered foot coverings, consisting of multiple components: an inner sock of woven wool or felt, a mid-layer of straw or dried grasses, and an outer shoe of tanned leather. These materials worked synergistically. The wool absorbed moisture, the plant materials provided bulk insulation, and the leather protected against external moisture. During extreme conditions, additional layers of cloth wrappings, known locally as foot bindings, were added, secured with intricate knotting patterns that prevented slippage while maintaining flexibility. Head coverings received particular attention, reflecting the medieval understanding of heat loss through cranial exposure. Both men and women wore close-fitting caps made from wool or fur, often incorporating ear flaps that could be tied under the chin. Wealthier individuals might possess hoods with integrated neck coverings, while poorer peasants fashioned similar protection from repurposed fabric scraps. The importance of head insulation extended to nighttime, with special sleeping caps designed to maintain warmth during rest periods. These caps featured multiple layers of fabric, sometimes incorporating small pouches for holding heated stones near the ears. Hand protection required careful balancing of warmth and functionality. Simple mittens, crafted from thick wool or leather, provided basic protection but severely limited manual dexterity. More sophisticated designs featured separate thumb compartments and partially divided fingers, allowing for essential tasks while maintaining core warmth. Inner gloves of finer wool could be worn beneath these outer coverings, creating an effective double-layer system. During periods of intense cold, families employed heated stones wrapped in cloth, held within the palms to maintain finger mobility. Textile production itself represented a complex system of resource management and technological innovation. Flax cultivation for linen required careful timing and extensive labor, from planting to retting to spinning. Wool processing involved multiple stages, including shearing, washing while carefully preserving lanolin, carding, and spinning. Local guilds maintained strict quality control over these processes, ensuring that fabrics met minimum standards for warmth and durability. Dye stuffs, while primarily decorative, sometimes served practical purposes. Certain plant-based dyes enhanced water resistance or provided antimicrobial properties. Garment construction incorporated numerous features designed to maximize warmth while minimizing material usage. Drawstrings and ties replaced buttons in many cases, allowing for adjustable fits that minimized cold air infiltration. Strategic placement of seams created natural air traps, enhancing insulation without adding bulk. Experienced tailors developed techniques for piecing together smaller fabric sections, turning limitations in material availability into advantages in thermal efficiency. Patchwork garments, far from indicating poverty, often represented the height of practical design. The maintenance and repair of clothing played crucial roles in winter survival. Regular brushing restored the natural loft of wool fibers, improving insulation properties. Mending went beyond simple patching. Skilled seamstresses incorporated additional layers of fabric in high-wear areas, effectively enhancing protection where it mattered most. Washing procedures, carefully timed to avoid damaging fibers, incorporated natural conditioners that helped maintain fabric performance. The development of specialized cleaning agents, derived from local plants and minerals, demonstrated advanced understanding of textile care. Social organization around clothing production fostered community resilience against cold weather. Spinning bees and weaving circles brought women together, facilitating the exchange of techniques and innovations. Seasonal work patterns aligned textile production with agricultural cycles, ensuring that essential clothing repairs and replacements occurred during appropriate times of year. Knowledge transmission occurred through apprenticeship systems, with elder women passing down not just technical skills but also weather prediction techniques and emergency clothing improvisation methods. Layering strategy extended beyond individual garments to encompass entire wardrobes. Families maintained carefully organized systems of clothing rotation, selecting appropriate combinations based on anticipated weather conditions and planned activities. Special garments reserved for extreme cold incorporated innovative features such as integrated warming pouches for heated stones or specialized venting systems for temperature regulation. The development of modular clothing components allowed for rapid adaptation to changing conditions, with detachable panels and interchangeable parts enabling quick modification of insulation levels. The economic implications of clothing production influenced broader aspects of peasant life. The need for reliable textiles affected decisions about land use, crop rotation, and livestock management. Sheep husbandry practices evolved to prioritize wool quality over meat production in some regions, while flax cultivation became a carefully managed component of agricultural systems. The trade networks that supplied dyestuffs, needles, and other textile-related goods formed essential links in the rural economy, connecting isolated communities to wider commercial systems. Cultural practices surrounding clothing reflected deeper understandings of thermal management. Ritual blessings of new garments often included prayers for warmth and protection, while traditional patterns incorporated symbolic motifs believed to enhance the wearer's resistance to cold. The development of specialized clothing for different life stages, from infant swaddling clothes to elderly warming robes, demonstrated sophisticated awareness of changing thermal needs throughout the human lifespan. Even funeral garments incorporated features designed to maintain dignity while acknowledging the final transition from earthly warmth to eternal rest. The winter diet of medieval peasants represented a carefully orchestrated symphony of preservation techniques, nutritional strategy, and resource management that ensured survival through the longest, darkest month. At its foundation lay the autumn harvest. Precipitation lay the autumn harvest, meticulously planned and executed to maximize food security. Grain storage, particularly of barley, oats, and rye, formed the backbone of this system. Families maintained elevated granaries, often constructed from wattle and daub with conical thatched roofs, designed to protect against both moisture and vermin. These structures featured raised wooden floors that allowed air circulation while preventing rodent access, demonstrating sophisticated understanding of grain preservation. Dairy products underwent complex transformation processes to extend their usability. Butter production peaked in late autumn, with surplus cream churned into dense cakes that could be stored for months when properly salted and wrapped in cabbage leaves. Cheesemaking evolved into an art form, with different varieties crafted to suit specific storage durations and nutritional needs. Hard cheeses, aged in cool cellars or buried in ash, provided concentrated calories and protein during lean periods. Whey, a byproduct of cheesemaking, found use in bread baking and as a base for fermented beverages, maximizing the nutritional value of milk production. Meat preservation techniques showcased remarkable ingenuity in the face of limited resources. Smoking houses, constructed from stone and clay, allowed for controlled curing of pork, beef, and mutton. Families developed specialized brine recipes, incorporating local herbs and spices to enhance flavor while discouraging bacterial growth. Salt, though expensive, proved indispensable for long-term preservation, leading to careful rationing and creative alternatives such as pickling in vinegar or burying meat in barrels of honey. The practice of sousing, immersing meat in gelatinous broth, created a protective layer that sealed in freshness while providing additional nutritional value. Root vegetables and legumes formed another critical component of winter sustenance. Carrots, turnips, parsnips, and onions were stored in specially constructed pits lined with straw and covered with earth, maintaining temperatures just above freezing. Beans and peas, dried thoroughly during favorable weather, provided essential proteins and fiber. Families developed elaborate rotation systems, accessing different storage pits according to need and condition, while regularly inspecting contents for signs of spoilage or pest infestation. The knowledge of which vegetables paired well in preservation, such as combining carrots with onions to inhibit in-sprouting, reflected generations of accumulated wisdom. Bread baking evolved into a highly organized community activity, centered around Lord-mandated bakehouses. These stone structures, often featuring multiple ovens, allowed for efficient mass production of various bread types. Rye bread, denser and longer lasting than wheat varieties, became the staple during winter months. Families carefully rationed their bread supplies, slicing it thinly and often pairing it with spreads of rendered animal fat or honey to enhance caloric intake. Stale bread found new life as porridge thickeners or stuffing ingredients, while crumbs were collected for use in soups and sauces. Fermentation techniques transformed limited resources into valuable winter provisions. Sauerkraut production reached industrial proportions in some communities, with massive ceramic jars buried in the ground to maintain consistent temperatures. Cider and ale brewing, traditionally autumn activities, produced beverages that not only provided hydration but also essential calories and nutrients during months when fresh fruits were unavailable. The development of mead making from honey surpluses demonstrated innovative approaches to resource utilization, while herbal infusions added medicinal benefits to these fermented drinks. Fat management represented a crucial aspect of winter nutrition. Every scrap of animal fat was carefully rendered and stored in tightly sealed earthenware jars, submerged in brine to prevent rancidity. Lard found use in everything from cooking to candle making, while drippings were collected and clarified for long-term storage. The development of fat days, periodic community events where families pooled resources for large-scale rendering operations, illustrated the cooperative nature of winter preparation. Even poultry fat, though limited in quantity, was carefully harvested and utilized in medicinal preparations. Wild foods played a surprisingly significant role in supplementing stored provisions. Trained dogs assisted in hunting rabbits and other small game, while snares and traps operated continuously throughout winter months. Knowledge of edible wild plants persisted even through snowy periods, with families harvesting frozen rose hips, pine nuts, and bark cambium when other options ran low. The development of specialized tools for ice fishing and winter foraging demonstrated ongoing adaptation to environmental challenges. Kitchen organization reflected the complexity of winter food management. Storage areas within dwellings featured carefully zoned temperature gradients, with different foods allocated to specific locations based on their preservation requirements. Shelves and hooks maximized vertical space, while pottery containers of various sizes accommodated different food types. The use of aromatic herbs in storage areas not only masked unpleasant odors but also discouraged pests and provided subtle flavor enhancements to stored goods. Meal preparation during winter months demanded particular skill and creativity. Slow cooking methods, utilizing residual heat from banked fires, allowed for efficient use of fuel while maximizing nutrient extraction from tough cuts of meat and dried vegetables. The development of one-pot meals, combining multiple preserved ingredients into hearty stews, simplified both preparation and cleanup while ensuring balanced nutrition. Seasoning blends, carefully assembled from dried herbs and spices, transformed monotonous preserved foods into palatable sustenance. Water management presented unique challenges during freezing temperatures. Families developed sophisticated systems for maintaining liquid water, including stone-lined pits that drew warmth from the earth and metal containers positioned near hearths. Snow melting became a carefully controlled process, with special attention paid to removing impurities and maintaining mineral content. The development of herbal teas and infused waters provided both hydration and medicinal benefits during illness-prone winter months. The economic implications of winter food management influenced broader aspects of peasant life. Surplus production during favorable seasons translated into bargaining power during market days, while specialized preservation skills commanded respect and sometimes compensation within the community. The trade networks that supplied salt, spices, and fermentation starters formed essential links in rural economies, connecting isolated villages to wider commercial systems. Even waste management, through composting and animal feed preparation, contributed to the overall sustainability of winter food systems. Cultural practices surrounding food preservation reflected deeper understandings of nutritional needs and environmental adaptation. Blessing ceremonies for newly filled storage pits incorporated prayers for preservation success, while traditional recipes evolved to maximize both shelf life and health benefits. The development of specialized utensils and cooking implements demonstrated ongoing innovation in food preparation techniques, while family recipes passed down through generations embodied centuries of accumulated wisdom about surviving harsh winters through careful dietary management. Charitable practices, sanctioned by the Church, formed essential safety nets during times of extreme hardship. The tithe barn, officially meant for storing the parish's tenth of agricultural produce, often doubled as an emergency food reserve. Wealthier peasants, encouraged by clergy, maintained poor boxes that distributed small amounts of grain or fuel during crises. The church's formal alms system, while sometimes criticized for inefficiency, nonetheless provided structured means of redistributing resources. Special collections during Advent and Lent specifically targeted winter needs, while the practice of soul cakes distributed on All Souls' Day helped address immediate hunger while remembering the deceased. Sacramental practices adapted to winter conditions demonstrated both practicality and theological sophistication. Baptisms, though theoretically possible year-round, clustered around major feast days to maximize community participation and minimize travel risks. Confessions increased during winter months, with priests reporting higher attendance at reconciliation services held in the church's warmer corners. Marriage ceremonies, traditionally autumn events, sometimes occurred during winter when travel became impossible for pregnant brides or destitute couples seeking shelter. Extreme unction, the last rites, saw particular emphasis on oil preservation and portable altars, ensuring spiritual care even during blizzards. Religious education, conducted by parish priests and experienced laywomen, played crucial roles in transmitting survival knowledge alongside spiritual doctrine. Sermons incorporated practical advice about weather prediction, food preservation, and fire safety, while catechism lessons taught children about seasonal saints and their associated agricultural wisdom. The development of religious plays and mystery cycles, performed during winter evenings, combined entertainment with instruction about both faith and farming practices. These performances, often funded by guild contributions, helped maintain community spirit while passing down essential knowledge to younger generations. The church's architectural features themselves contributed to winter survival strategies. Thick stone walls provided refuge from howling winds, while the building's interior maintained relatively stable temperatures suitable for various community activities. The church's tower served as a weather vane and warning system, its bells alerting villagers to approaching storms or emergencies. Clergy maintained detailed records of weather patterns and their effects on agriculture, creating what amounted to early meteorological archives that guided planting and harvesting decisions. Spiritual practices also addressed the psychological challenges of winter isolation. The development of personal devotions, including rosary recitation and private prayer, helped individuals cope with confinement and anxiety. Group penances, sometimes involving entire families, created opportunities for shared experiences of redemption and renewal. The practice of spiritual adoption, where wealthier families took responsibility for poorer ones' spiritual welfare, extended beyond mere charity to create meaningful social connections that endured beyond immediate crises. Ritual objects and sacred spaces took on additional significance during winter months. Holy water fonts, kept from freezing through careful maintenance, provided both spiritual protection and mild antibacterial benefits. Relics housed in the church served as focal points for community prayers during severe weather, while blessed salt and herbs found use in both culinary and medical applications. The church's graveyard, far from being merely a place of mourning, became a site of hopeful anticipation, with evergreen decorations symbolizing eternal life amidst seasonal death. The integration of pagan elements into Christian practice, while officially discouraged, persisted in subtle forms that enhanced winter survival. Yule logs, originally pre-Christian symbols, found new meaning as representations of Christ's light. The use of mistletoe and holly in church decorations, combined ancient fertility symbols with Christian notions of eternal life. Midwinter celebrations, while reshaped by ecclesiastical authorities, retained elements of ancient solar worship that resonated deeply with agricultural communities dependent on seasonal cycles. Economic aspects of religious practice contributed significantly to community resilience. Church tithes, while burdensome, helped establish regular patterns of resource redistribution. The maintenance of church lands provided employment opportunities during slack agricultural periods, while the construction and repair of religious buildings stimulated local economies. Craftsmen specializing in religious artifacts, from candle makers to bell founders, found steady work that helped sustain their families through winter months. The church's role as a lender of last resort, though controversial, sometimes prevented complete family collapse during particularly harsh seasons. Educational institutions connected to the church, including chantry schools and scriptoriums, preserved and transmitted crucial knowledge about winter survival. Monastic communities, while physically separate from peasant villages, maintained libraries and herb gardens that served as repositories of medical and agricultural wisdom. The copying of manuscripts, particularly those dealing with agricultural calendars and medical remedies, ensured the preservation of practical knowledge alongside religious texts. The development of illuminated manuscripts, while primarily artistic endeavors, sometimes incorporated practical information about seasonal activities and weather patterns. The psychological impact of religious practice on winter survival cannot be overstated. Regular participation in communal worship provided structure and purpose during periods of enforced confinement. The promise of spiritual rewards for earthly suffering helped maintain morale during times of extreme hardship. The development of personal relationships with patron saints, particularly those associated with protection from cold or famine, offered comfort and hope to individuals facing seemingly insurmountable challenges. The Church's role as both spiritual guide and practical support system exemplified the complex interplay between faith and survival that characterized medieval rural life. The social organization of medieval Wickenham represented a sophisticated network of reciprocal obligations and mutual support that proved essential for winter survival. At its core lay the extended family unit, typically spanning 3 generations and encompassing up to 20 individuals. At its core lay the extended family unit. These kinship groups maintained careful balances of labor and resources, with elders contributing wisdom and childcare, while younger members handled more physically demanding tasks. The concept of fictive kinship expanded this network, incorporating godparents, sworn brothers, and adopted relations into the support system through formal ceremonies and mutual pledges of loyalty. These extended family ties created a web of obligations that ensured no individual or household faced winter's challenges alone. Neighborly cooperation evolved into formalized systems of mutual aid, with families grouped into tithing units of 10 households each. These groups functioned as both social and economic safety nets, with members pledging to support one another during crises. The tithing system facilitated resource sharing. A family with surplus firewood might lend to neighbors in exchange for future labor or food assistance. During severe weather, these units organized rotating watch schedules to monitor for fires, structural damage, and wandering livestock, creating an early warning system that saved lives and property. Community work parties, known locally as bees, transformed necessary labor into social events that strengthened bonds while accomplishing essential tasks. Threshing bees in late autumn prepared grain supplies while allowing families to share news and skills. Wool spinning sessions during winter evenings combined textile production with storytelling and skill transmission from elders to youth. These gatherings followed strict protocols regarding participation and contribution, ensuring that even the poorest households could benefit while maintaining their dignity through reciprocal obligations. Specialized roles emerged within the community structure to address particular winter needs. Fire wardens monitored fuel usage and helped manage communal woodlots, ensuring sustainable harvesting practices. Experienced women served as herb wives, maintaining medicinal gardens and dispensing knowledge about cold-related ailments. Blacksmiths and carpenters established emergency repair services, often accepting future labor or produce as payment for immediate assistance. These specialists formed the backbone of community resilience, their skills safeguarded through apprenticeship systems that prioritized local talent over external recruitment. The development of poor shares represented perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of mutual aid. Each household contributed a portion of their harvest, typically 1/20th of grain, vegetables, and preserved foods, to a communal storehouse maintained by trusted elders. This system operated separately from church tithes and manorial obligations, representing a purely secular approach to resource distribution. Access to poor shares required approval from the entire tithing group, preventing abuse while ensuring timely assistance during genuine crises. Records of contributions and distributions were maintained through intricate tally stick systems, demonstrating advanced accounting practices among supposedly simple peasants. Housing arrangements reflected these social structures through architectural adaptations. Many longhouses featured removable partitions that allowed for temporary expansion during family crises or community gatherings. Neighboring dwellings often shared common walls, facilitating heat transfer between households while reducing construction costs. Some villages developed warmth corridors, covered walkways connecting multiple dwellings, that enabled safe passage during storms while maintaining interior temperatures. These physical connections mirrored the social bonds they supported, creating literal pathways of mutual support. Marriage alliances played crucial roles in strengthening community networks. Families carefully arranged unions to maximize resource access and skill distribution across tithing groups. Dowries often included specialized tools or rare seeds rather than monetary wealth, enhancing the community's overall capabilities. Newlyweds typically spent their first winter living with both sets of parents in rotation, learning survival techniques and building relationships with extended family members. This practice ensured that critical knowledge transmitted efficiently across generations while reinforcing social cohesion. Economic exchanges within the community developed complex patterns that prioritized survival over profit. Barter systems incorporated elaborate credit arrangements, allowing families to access necessary resources during lean periods in exchange for future labor or produce. Specialized tokens, often carved from bone or wood, served as markers of these debts, preventing disputes while maintaining accurate records. The development of winter prices for essential goods acknowledged seasonal scarcity without exploiting vulnerable households, demonstrating sophisticated understanding of market dynamics adapted to community needs.
The technological innovations developed by medieval peasants for winter survival represented remarkable achievements in practical engineering. born from necessity and refined through generations of experimentation. At the forefront stood advances in thermal management tools, particularly the evolution of cooking and heating implements, the development of the range hearth, a sophisticated modification of the traditional central fire, featured multiple cooking surfaces and adjustable ventilation controls. Constructed from local stone and clay, these installations incorporated channels that directed heat to specific areas of the dwelling while maintaining efficient combustion. The introduction of cast iron pots and cauldrons, though expensive, revolutionized food preparation by enabling more precise temperature control and better heat retention during prolonged cooking sessions. Agricultural tools underwent significant winter-specific adaptations. The invention of the snowplow hoe, combining elements of traditional hoes with broad, curved blades, allowed for efficient clearing of paths and doorways during snowstorms. This implement, often crafted from hardened wood reinforced with metal strips, featured replaceable edges that extended its usable life while adapting to different snow conditions. Equally important were developments in storage technology. Elevated granaries incorporated adjustable ventilation systems that maintained optimal humidity levels while preventing rodent access. Some communities developed rotating shelf systems that automated inventory management, ensuring older stock was used first while minimizing manual handling of heavy containers. Lighting solutions demonstrated particular ingenuity in overcoming winter darkness. The evolution of rushlights from simple dipped reeds to complex braided designs incorporating multiple plant fibers increased both duration and brightness. Improvements in candle-making techniques, including the development of composite candles that combined beeswax with rendered animal fats, created more efficient light sources that burned cleaner and lasted longer. Lantern design progressed significantly, with metalworkers crafting multi-faced lanterns featuring adjustable shutters that directed light precisely while protecting flames from drafts. The introduction of reflective backings, made from polished metal or specially treated clay, enhanced illumination efficiency in confined spaces. Water management technologies addressed the unique challenges of freezing temperatures. The development of thermal wells, deep shafts lined with stone and insulated with straw, maintained liquid water sources even during severe cold spells. Portable water heaters, constructed from nested metal containers filled with heated stones, allowed for safe transportation of warm water between dwellings and storage areas. Innovations in ice harvesting techniques, including the development of specialized saws and lifting equipment, transformed what had been a hazard into a valuable resource for food preservation and cooling during warmer periods. Textile production tools incorporated numerous winter-specific improvements. Enhanced spinning wheels featured adjustable tension systems that accommodated thicker winter fibers while maintaining consistent thread quality. Loom designs evolved to include heated shuttles that prevented thread breakage in cold environments, while improved carding combs incorporated interchangeable teeth patterns for different wool types. The development of portable weaving frames allowed for flexible workspace arrangements, enabling crafters to position themselves optimally near heat sources while maintaining productivity during long winter evenings.
Building maintenance tools reflected sophisticated understanding of structural preservation during harsh conditions. The creation of specialized mortar mixes, incorporating local clays and crushed chalk, improved freeze-thaw resistance in wattle and daub repairs. Roofing tools evolved to include adjustable thatching needles and precision cutting implements that minimized waste while maximizing insulation properties. Innovations in foundation reinforcement, such as the development of frost anchors, wooden stakes treated with natural preservatives and driven deep into the ground, helped stabilize structures against winter's forces. Medical technology saw significant advancements driven by winter health challenges. the development of portable herbal chests, featuring divided compartments and airtight seals, protected precious remedies from moisture and temperature fluctuations, improved surgical instruments, often crafted by local blacksmiths, incorporated ergonomic designs that enhanced precision while reducing hand fatigue during procedures, the invention of adjustable splints and warming pads, made from layered fabrics and heated stones, improved treatment outcomes for cold-related injuries and illnesses. Communication tools address the isolation imposed by winter conditions. Signal systems evolved beyond simple bell ringing to include coded smoke signals and mirror-based light flashes that conveyed specific messages across distances. The development of standardized message tubes, crafted from hollowed-out wood or metal, protected written communications while ensuring rapid delivery. Some communities established relay systems using trained dogs, equipped with specialized harnesses and protective coverings, to maintain contact during severe weather. Energy conservation devices demonstrated remarkable innovation in resource management. The creation of heat traps, ceramic vessels designed to capture and slowly release warmth from cooking fires, maximized energy efficiency while providing supplemental heating. Improved flue systems incorporated baffles and deflectors that enhanced heat extraction from chimneys, while heat exchangers transferred warmth from exhaust gases to incoming air. The development of thermal batteries, containers filled with heated stones or liquids that retained warmth for extended periods, allowed for targeted heating of specific areas without maintaining large fires. Measurement and monitoring tools evolved to enhance predictive capabilities. The creation of standardized rain gauges and snow depth markers helped track precipitation patterns, while improved wind vanes and direction indicators assisted in weather forecasting. Some communities developed early forms of hygrometers using animal gut strings and calibrated scales to monitor humidity levels. The establishment of community observation posts, equipped with these instruments and maintained by trained observers, created rudimentary meteorological networks that improved preparedness for approaching weather systems. Tool maintenance systems reflected the importance placed on technological readiness during winter months. Centralized sharpening stations, equipped with water-powered grinding wheels and honing stones, ensured cutting implements remained effective despite frequent use. Blacksmith shops developed specialized tempering techniques that enhanced tool durability in cold conditions, while cooperatives maintained shared inventories of critical replacement parts. The creation of tool libraries, where rarely used implements could be borrowed rather than individually owned, optimized resource allocation while ensuring access to necessary equipment during emergencies. These technological innovations, though seemingly modest by modern standards, represented sophisticated responses to environmental challenges. Their development occurred through incremental improvements and careful adaptation of existing materials, demonstrating the medieval peasant's capacity for technical problem-solving under constraints. The transmission of these innovations through apprenticeship systems and community networks ensured that successful solutions spread efficiently while remaining accessible to all members of society. This technological ecosystem of winter survival tools exemplified the medieval approach to innovation: practical, collaborative, and focused on maintaining community resilience through shared technological advancement. The gradual erosion of medieval survival strategies represents one of history's most profound losses of practical knowledge, occurring through a complex interplay of social, economic, and technological transformations. The dissolution of monasteries under Henry VIII marked a crucial turning point, as these institutions had served as repositories of agricultural wisdom, medical knowledge, and weather prediction techniques accumulated over centuries. Monastic gardens, once vibrant centers of botanical experimentation and seed preservation, fell into disrepair, taking with them countless varieties of hardy crops and medicinal plants specifically adapted to harsh climates. The loss of monastery libraries, containing meticulously copied manuscripts detailing seasonal practices and emergency protocols, severed a vital link in the chain of practical knowledge transmission. The enclosure movement of the 16th and 17th centuries dealt another devastating blow to communal survival systems. As common lands were privatized, the sophisticated network of shared resources that had sustained rural communities through winter months collapsed. Woodlots managed through ancient coppicing techniques disappeared, along with the expertise in sustainable forestry that had ensured reliable fuel supplies for generations. Open field systems, with their carefully calculated rotations and fallow periods, gave way to enclosed pastures that prioritized commercial livestock production over diverse agriculture. This shift eliminated the intricate balance of crop varieties and grazing patterns that had stabilized food supplies during lean periods. Industrialization accelerated this process of knowledge loss by introducing technologies that, while appearing more efficient, actually reduced community resilience. The widespread adoption of coal-fired stoves replaced traditional hearth systems, severing the connection between cooking, heating, and social organization that had characterized medieval homes. These new heating methods required cash purchases rather than community-managed resources, undermining the mutual aid systems that had distributed fuel equitably. Similarly, the introduction of factory-produced textiles supplanted local spinning and weaving traditions, eliminating not just craft skills but also the accompanying knowledge of fiber properties and thermal layering techniques that had evolved over centuries. The rise of scientific agriculture in the 18th century systematically dismissed traditional practices as superstitious or inefficient, despite their proven effectiveness in maintaining food security through variable seasons. Crop rotation systems based on chemical analysis replaced intuitive methods that had accounted for local microclimates and soil conditions. The emphasis on single crop yields led to the abandonment of mixed farming practices that had provided insurance against crop failure during harsh winters. Traditional seed-saving networks, which had maintained genetic diversity and adaptability in staple crops, were replaced by commercial seed companies promoting standardized varieties that often proved less resilient to extreme weather. Urbanization further eroded survival knowledge by breaking up the extended family networks that had served as primary transmission channels for practical wisdom. As younger generations moved to cities in search of industrial employment, they lacked daily exposure to the seasonal rhythms and cooperative practices that had sustained rural communities. The oral tradition of passing down detailed instructions for food preservation, fire management, and winter health care weakened as family units became smaller and more isolated. Grandparents who might have taught grandchildren essential skills instead found themselves separated by distance and changing lifestyles. Modern educational systems, focusing on theoretical knowledge rather than practical application, completed the marginalization of traditional survival techniques. Agricultural colleges promoted laboratory-derived solutions over field-tested methods, while public schools emphasized literacy and numeracy at the expense of hands-on training in essential life skills. The very language used to describe weather pattern, plant growth cycles, and animal behavior rich with nuanced observations accumulated over generations, gradually disappeared from common usage, taking with it the subtle understanding of environmental indicators that had guided medieval farmers. Transportation revolutions, while improving access to markets, paradoxically reduced community self-sufficiency. The ability to purchase food and fuel from distant sources diminished the imperative to maintain local reserves and preservation systems. Refrigeration technology, celebrated as progress, displaced time-tested methods of food storage that had worked reliably without mechanical intervention. The development of synthetic fibers and mass-produced clothing made traditional textile skills seem obsolete, despite their superior performance in extreme conditions and their role in maintaining local economies. Public health initiatives, while undoubtedly beneficial in many ways, sometimes inadvertently destroyed valuable traditional medical knowledge. The emphasis on hospital-based care replaced home-based remedies and preventive practices that had kept communities healthy through harsh winters. Midwives and herbalists, once respected keepers of medical wisdom, found their roles diminished as professional medicine claimed exclusive authority over health matters. The knowledge of seasonal illnesses and their prevention, once common currency in rural communities, became increasingly rare as medical professionals focused on treating rather than preventing disease. Climate change itself has rendered some traditional survival strategies less relevant, creating a feedback loop where forgotten knowledge becomes increasingly valuable as weather patterns become more extreme. The loss of drought-resistant crop varieties, cold-tolerant livestock breeds, and flood management techniques leaves modern society less equipped to handle environmental challenges that medieval communities would have considered routine. The disappearance of community-based disaster response systems, replaced by centralized emergency services, has reduced local capacity to respond quickly and effectively to weather-related crises. Efforts to document and preserve disappearing traditional knowledge have often fallen short, constrained by academic biases that privilege written records over oral traditions. Museum collections focus on artifacts rather than the practical skills needed to use them effectively, while folklore studies tend to romanticize peasant life rather than analyzing its technical sophistication. The few surviving practitioners of traditional crafts and agricultural methods struggle to pass on their skills in a world that values speed and convenience over sustainability and resilience. Ironically, many modern attempts to address environmental and social challenges unknowingly reinvent solutions that medieval peasants had already perfected. Permaculture designs echo ancient land management practices, while contemporary interest in natural building materials reflects the wisdom of wattle and daub construction. The rediscovery of heirloom vegetable varieties mirrors the seed-saving networks of the past, and current enthusiasm for local food systems recapitulates the balanced agricultural economy that once sustained rural communities through every season. Yet these modern adaptations often lack the depth of understanding and the comprehensive integration of social, economic, and environmental factors that characterized medieval survival strategies. The loss of medieval survival wisdom extends beyond mere technical knowledge to encompass entire ways of thinking about human relationship to environment and community. The holistic approach that viewed shelter, clothing, food, and social organization as interconnected elements of winter survival has given way to compartmentalized solutions that address symptoms rather than underlying causes. The disappearance of mutual aid systems, replaced by market-based transactions, has left society more vulnerable to disruptions in supply chains and economic instability. The erosion of seasonal awareness, once deeply ingrained in daily life, has diminished humanity's ability to anticipate and prepare for environmental challenges. The resurgence of interest in sustainable living has led to remarkable parallels between contemporary practices and medieval survival strategies. Though often implemented with modern technological enhancements, passive solar design, championed by contemporary architects, mirrors the medieval understanding of optimal building orientation and thermal mass utilization. Modern earth-sheltered homes incorporate principles similar to those used in medieval longhouses, with south-facing windows maximizing winter sunlight, while thick walls provide consistent interior temperatures. The development of trombe walls, vertical thermal mass structures that absorb and slowly release heat, represents a technological evolution of the medieval practice of stone-lined heat channels embedded in earthen floors. Urban agriculture initiatives have rediscovered the wisdom of medieval kitchen gardens, though now adapted to limited space and modern materials. Vertical gardening systems, hydroponic towers, and rooftop farms echo the intensive cultivation techniques that allowed medieval peasants to maximize food production within constrained areas. The concept of edible landscapes, where ornamental plants serve both aesthetic and nutritional purposes, directly parallels medieval practices of integrating useful herbs and vegetables into domestic spaces. Contemporary permaculture designs, emphasizing polycultures and companion planting, build upon the sophisticated crop rotation and pest management systems developed through centuries of peasant experience. The tiny house movement demonstrates striking similarities to medieval dwelling design, particularly in its focus on efficient space utilization and thermal efficiency. Modern tiny homes often feature loft sleeping areas positioned above heat sources, precisely like medieval sleeping platforms. The use of high-performance insulation materials achieves results comparable to the thick walls and thatched roofs of peasant cottages, while modern ventilation systems replicate the carefully controlled airflow patterns that prevented smoke accumulation in medieval homes. The emphasis on multifunctional furniture and flexible living spaces echoes the adaptable interior arrangements that allowed peasant families to modify their dwellings for changing seasonal needs. Contemporary approaches to winter clothing reveal evolutionary adaptations of medieval layering techniques. High-tech base layers, made from synthetic fibers, mimic the moisture-wicking properties of linen chemises, while modern fleece garments approximate the insulating characteristics of wool tunics. The development of modular outerwear systems, featuring detachable components and strategically placed ventilation panels, builds upon medieval innovations in garment design. Performance footwear incorporating multiple layers of synthetic materials and air pockets represents a technological refinement of the traditional straw and leather combinations that kept medieval feet warm and dry. Modern food preservation methods show clear connections to medieval practices, albeit enhanced by contemporary science. Freeze-drying technology preserves food nutrients while extending shelf life, much like the medieval practice of drying fruits and vegetables. Vacuum sealing and modified atmosphere packaging replicate the anaerobic conditions created by medieval pickling and fermentation techniques. The resurgence of artisanal cheesemaking and charcuterie production demonstrates renewed appreciation for traditional preservation methods, now informed by modern food safety standards and bacterial culture research. Community-supported agriculture (CSA) programs and local food cooperatives reflect updated versions of medieval mutual aid systems. These modern initiatives create networks of shared resources and responsibilities that parallel the tithing groups and poor shares of rural villages. Time banking systems, where services are exchanged based on time rather than monetary value, echo medieval barter arrangements while incorporating digital tracking technologies. Neighborhood tool libraries and maker spaces serve functions similar to medieval craft guilds, providing access to specialized equipment and expertise while fostering skill-sharing communities. Renewable energy systems demonstrate technological evolution of medieval energy management principles. Modern passive solar water heaters function similarly to medieval hot water stones, while contemporary heat recovery ventilation systems achieve results comparable to medieval flue baffle designs. Biomass heating systems, though technologically advanced, rely on the same fundamental principles of efficient combustion and heat distribution that guided medieval fire management. The development of phase change materials for thermal storage represents a scientific refinement of medieval heat trap technology. Sustainable textile production incorporates medieval techniques adapted to modern contexts. Natural dye processes, once dismissed as primitive, find new applications in eco-friendly fabric production. Zero-waste pattern making builds upon medieval practices of maximizing fabric utilization, while slow fashion movements emphasize durability and repairability reminiscent of medieval garment maintenance. The revival of hand spinning and weaving, supported by online communities and digital tutorials, creates global networks that parallel medieval craft guilds while leveraging modern communication technologies. Modern approaches to community resilience draw directly from medieval organizational structures. Neighborhood emergency response teams, disaster preparedness networks, and community warming centers reflect updated versions of medieval storm warning systems and temporary shelters. Digital communication platforms enable coordination similar to medieval signal systems, while maintaining the principle of localized decision-making during crises. The development of community land trusts and cooperative housing projects builds upon medieval concepts of common resource management, now informed by contemporary legal frameworks and financial instruments. Psychological approaches to winter well-being incorporate elements of medieval spiritual practices adapted to secular contexts. Seasonal affective disorder (SAD) treatment protocols include light therapy that mimics medieval candle lighting rituals, while mindfulness practices draw upon medieval contemplative traditions. Modern wellness retreats and spa treatments utilize herbal remedies and thermal therapies that echo medieval health maintenance systems. The emphasis on maintaining social connections during winter months reflects understanding of the psychological benefits inherent in medieval community gatherings. Educational initiatives focused on traditional skills represent conscious efforts to recover medieval wisdom. Living history museums and experimental archaeology projects attempt to reconstruct lost techniques while documenting their effectiveness. Traditional skills festivals and heritage craft fairs create opportunities for knowledge exchange similar to medieval craft fairs and market days. Online platforms dedicated to preserving traditional knowledge connect practitioners globally, creating virtual communities that parallel medieval guild networks while operating across vast distances. Technological innovations in climate adaptation build upon medieval environmental awareness. Urban heat island mitigation strategies incorporate green roof technologies that echo medieval thatching practices. Flood management systems utilize nature-based solutions similar to medieval water meadow management. Weather prediction models, while technologically advanced, benefit from observations recorded in medieval chronicles and agricultural calendars. The development of climate-resilient crop varieties draws upon genetic material preserved through traditional seed-saving practices. The integration of traditional knowledge with modern technology demonstrates the enduring value of medieval survival strategies. Smart home systems that optimize energy use build upon medieval fire management principles while incorporating digital sensors and automation. Precision agriculture technologies apply scientific methods to crop management techniques originally developed through empirical observation. Health monitoring devices combine traditional diagnostic methods with contemporary sensor technology, creating hybrid systems that honor historical wisdom while embracing modern capabilities. Recent interdisciplinary research has begun to illuminate the sophisticated scientific principles underlying medieval survival strategies, challenging long-held assumptions about their supposed primitiveness. Thermal imaging studies of reconstructed medieval dwellings reveal complex heat distribution patterns that rival modern passive solar designs. The combination of thick walls, thatched roofs, and strategic ventilation created microclimates within peasant homes that maintained remarkably stable temperatures despite external fluctuations. Computational fluid dynamics modeling demonstrates how medieval builders intuitively understood convection currents and thermal mass effects, optimizing their structures for maximum energy efficiency, long before these concepts entered scientific discourse. Material science investigations into medieval textiles have uncovered remarkable insights into fiber technology. Advanced microscopy reveals that the combination of natural lanolin in wool with plant-based dyes created composite materials with superior insulating properties and water resistance. The traditional practice of fulling wool, repeatedly wetting, beating, and shrinking fabric, generated nanoscale structures that enhanced thermal performance. Chemical analysis of medieval dye recipes shows purposeful inclusion of antimicrobial agents that prevented mold growth and maintained fabric integrity during long winters. These findings suggest that medieval spinners and weavers possessed sophisticated understanding of material science principles, applying them instinctively through generations of practical experimentation. Archaeobotanical research has shed new light on medieval agricultural practices, revealing systematic approaches to plant breeding and selection that anticipated modern genetic engineering. Stable isotope analysis of preserved seeds demonstrates deliberate cultivation of drought-resistant varieties and cold-tolerant strains through careful crossbreeding. The spatial arrangement of medieval fields, once thought random, proves to be a sophisticated system of microclimate management. Soil chemistry studies show evidence of organic amendments and mineral supplements that optimized nutrient availability while maintaining soil structure, practices now recognized as foundational to sustainable agriculture. The timing of crop rotations appears synchronized with subtle climatic variations, detectable only through long-term observation, suggesting advanced meteorological awareness. Metallurgical analysis of medieval tools and household implements reveals unexpected sophistication in materials engineering. Electron microscopy examination of blacksmith-made items shows deliberate alloying techniques that enhanced durability under specific working conditions. The composition of cooking vessels indicates purposeful manipulation of thermal conductivity and heat retention properties, optimized for different culinary applications. Archaeometric studies of building hardware demonstrate understanding of corrosion resistance and mechanical stress distribution that rivals modern engineering principles. These findings suggest that medieval craftsmen employed systematic experimentation and quality control methods previously unrecognized by historians. Biomedical research into traditional herbal remedies has validated many medieval medical practices, while revealing unexpected biochemical sophistication. Mass spectrometry analysis of preserved medicinal preparations identifies complex synergistic combinations of active compounds that enhance therapeutic effects while minimizing side effects. The timing of herbal harvests, traditionally believed to be based on astrological considerations, correlates precisely with peak concentrations of pharmacologically active substances. Studies of preserved medical texts show evidence of systematic clinical observation and documentation of treatment outcomes, suggesting proto-scientific approaches to healthcare management. The development of compound medicines demonstrates understanding of drug interactions and dosage optimization principles. Environmental science investigations confirm the ecological wisdom embedded in medieval land management practices. Isotopic analysis of soil profiles reveals sophisticated nutrient cycling systems that maintained fertility while preventing erosion. Paleoclimatic reconstructions based on medieval records show evidence of systematic weather pattern recognition and predictive modeling. The spatial organization of medieval settlements demonstrates awareness of watershed dynamics and microclimate effects that modern planners are only beginning to appreciate. Carbon dating of preserved woodlands confirms sustainable harvesting practices that maintained biodiversity while providing essential resources, challenging previous assumptions about medieval environmental impact. Thermodynamic studies of medieval heating systems reveal advanced understanding of energy conversion and heat transfer principles. Computational modeling of hearth designs demonstrates purposeful optimization of combustion efficiency and heat distribution. The placement of cooking surfaces and heat channels shows evidence of systematic experimentation with conductive and convective heat transfer. Analysis of ash residue patterns suggests intentional manipulation of fuel mixtures to achieve specific thermal properties. These findings indicate that medieval householders possessed practical knowledge of thermodynamics that was transmitted through generations of empirical testing and refinement. Hydrological research has uncovered sophisticated water management systems that anticipated modern engineering principles. Ground-penetrating radar surveys reveal complex networks of drainage channels and water storage features beneath medieval settlements. Isotopic analysis of preserved water containers shows evidence of deliberate water treatment methods that enhanced potability while preventing contamination. The timing of irrigation practices correlates with subtle variations in soil moisture retention and evaporation rates, suggesting advanced understanding of hydrological cycles. The design of wells and cisterns demonstrates consideration of groundwater flow patterns and contamination prevention principles. Microbiological studies of food preservation techniques have revealed remarkable insight into microbial ecology and food safety principles. DNA sequencing of preserved food samples identifies purposeful selection of beneficial microbial cultures while excluding pathogens. The timing and conditions of fermentation processes show evidence of systematic optimization for specific preservation goals. Chemical analysis of preserved meats demonstrates understanding of salt concentration gradients and diffusion rates that rivals modern food science knowledge. These findings suggest that medieval food preparers possessed sophisticated understanding of microbiological processes through careful observation and controlled experimentation. Structural engineering analysis of medieval buildings reveals advanced knowledge of load distribution and material stress management. Finite element analysis of timber framing systems shows evidence of systematic optimization for strength-to-weight ratios. The placement of support structures and load-bearing elements demonstrates understanding of structural dynamics that anticipates modern engineering principles. Studies of foundation systems reveal purposeful consideration of soil mechanics and frost heave prevention. The longevity of many medieval structures, surviving centuries of environmental stress, testifies to the effectiveness of these empirically derived construction methods. Climatological research based on medieval records provides valuable insights into long-term weather patterns and climate variability. Statistical analysis of harvest dates, wine production records, and ice formation observations reveals systematic tracking of seasonal variations that predates modern meteorological science. The correlation between documented weather events and agricultural practices demonstrates sophisticated understanding of climate impacts on food production. The development of seasonal calendars and weather prediction systems shows evidence of systematic data collection and pattern recognition that anticipated modern climatological methods. These findings highlight the scientific rigor underlying medieval approaches to environmental management and resource planning. The comprehensive examination of medieval survival strategies reveals a sophisticated system of knowledge that transcends mere historical curiosity, offering vital lessons for contemporary society facing unprecedented environmental and social challenges. The integration of traditional wisdom with modern technology demonstrates the potential for hybrid approaches that combine proven effectiveness with contemporary capabilities. This synthesis manifests in three crucial areas: climate adaptation, community resilience, and sustainable resource management, each representing a bridge between historical experience and future necessity. Climate adaptation strategies benefit profoundly from medieval insights into microclimate management and seasonal awareness. Modern urban planning increasingly incorporates principles observed in medieval village layouts, where buildings naturally shielded each other from prevailing winds while maximizing solar gain. The development of climate-responsive architecture draws directly from medieval practices of orienting structures to optimize natural heating and cooling patterns. Green infrastructure projects now mimic medieval water management systems, using permeable surfaces and natural drainage patterns to handle increased rainfall and flooding risks associated with climate change. These adaptations prove particularly valuable in regions experiencing more extreme seasonal variations, where traditional building techniques offer proven solutions for maintaining comfortable living conditions. Community resilience emerges as perhaps the most urgent application of medieval wisdom in contemporary society. The sophisticated mutual aid systems developed by medieval peasants provide blueprints for modern community organization that transcend political and economic boundaries. Neighborhood-based emergency response networks, inspired by medieval tithing groups, demonstrate remarkable effectiveness in urban areas during natural disasters and pandemics. The concept of community shares, modern adaptations of medieval poor shares, successfully addresses food insecurity in both rural and urban settings. These systems, combining traditional social organization with digital coordination tools, create robust support networks that maintain functionality during crises while fostering stronger social bonds during stable periods. Sustainable resource management represents another critical area where medieval practices inform contemporary solutions. The rediscovery of traditional land management techniques, such as coppicing and rotational grazing, offers viable alternatives to industrial agriculture's environmental impacts. Modern agroforestry systems build upon medieval woodland management principles, creating productive landscapes that sequester carbon while providing food and fuel. The revival of heritage crop varieties and traditional animal breeds enhances agricultural biodiversity, creating more resilient food systems in the face of changing climate conditions. These approaches, supported by modern genetic research and ecological monitoring, demonstrate how ancient wisdom can be scientifically validated and scaled for contemporary application. Technological innovation increasingly incorporates elements of medieval design philosophy, emphasizing efficiency, durability, and adaptability. The development of smart home systems that optimize energy use mirrors medieval fire management practices while leveraging digital sensors and automation. Precision agriculture technologies apply scientific methods to crop management techniques originally developed through empirical observation, creating hybrid systems that honor historical wisdom while embracing modern capabilities. The integration of traditional building materials with contemporary engineering solutions produces structures that combine aesthetic appeal with exceptional environmental performance, addressing both cultural heritage preservation and sustainability goals. Healthcare systems benefit from the rediscovery of traditional medical knowledge, particularly in preventive care and mental health support. The integration of herbal remedies with conventional medicine creates more comprehensive treatment options while reducing pharmaceutical dependency. Modern wellness practices that emphasize seasonal adjustments to diet and activity patterns draw directly from medieval health maintenance systems. The development of community-based health initiatives, inspired by medieval parish network, demonstrates remarkable effectiveness in addressing both physical and psychological well-being, particularly during periods of social isolation or environmental stress. Food security strategies increasingly incorporate medieval preservation techniques adapted to modern contexts. The resurgence of fermentation, drying, and smoking methods helps reduce food waste while creating products with enhanced nutritional profiles. Community-supported agriculture programs that emphasize seasonal eating patterns and local food networks build upon medieval agricultural calendars, while incorporating contemporary distribution technologies. The development of urban food production systems combines traditional intensive gardening techniques with modern growing technologies, creating resilient local food systems that can withstand supply chain disruptions. Education and skill transmission systems demonstrate how medieval apprenticeship models can be adapted to contemporary needs. Makerspaces and community workshops revive the spirit of medieval craft guilds while incorporating digital fabrication tools and global networking capabilities. Traditional skills festivals and heritage craft fairs create opportunities for knowledge exchange that parallel medieval market days, now enhanced by online platforms and digital documentation methods. These hybrid approaches ensure the preservation and transmission of practical wisdom while maintaining relevance in rapidly changing technological environments. Environmental restoration projects increasingly draw upon medieval land management principles, particularly in wetland conservation and forest regeneration. The application of traditional coppicing techniques helps restore degraded woodlands while providing sustainable sources of biomass energy. Modern permaculture designs incorporate medieval polyculture systems, creating ecosystems that require minimal external inputs while maximizing productivity. The development of nature-based solutions for flood management and erosion control builds upon medieval water meadow systems, proving particularly effective in mitigating climate change impacts. Social organization principles derived from medieval communities inform contemporary approaches to community development and conflict resolution. The emphasis on reciprocal obligations and mutual support creates more cohesive neighborhoods while reducing reliance on centralized authority structures. Modern mediation practices that incorporate traditional dispute resolution methods demonstrate remarkable effectiveness in maintaining social harmony during periods of stress. The development of participatory governance models builds upon medieval consensus-building traditions while incorporating contemporary democratic principles and digital communication tools. The synthesis of medieval survival strategies with modern capabilities represents not merely a return to past practices, but rather the creation of hybrid systems that leverage historical wisdom while addressing contemporary challenges. This integrated approach acknowledges the value of proven solutions while embracing innovation and adaptation. By recognizing the scientific sophistication underlying traditional practices and validating their effectiveness through contemporary research methods, society can develop more resilient systems capable of withstanding both environmental pressures and social transformations. The lessons of medieval survival, far from being relics of a bygone era, emerge as vital components of humanity's toolkit for navigating an uncertain future, demonstrating that true progress often involves rediscovering and refining the wisdom of the past rather than discarding it wholesale in pursuit of novelty. At its core, this synthesis represents a profound shift in how society values and applies traditional knowledge, rather than viewing historical practices as primitive or outdated. Contemporary society increasingly recognizes their scientific validity and practical effectiveness. This paradigm shift enables the development of truly sustainable solutions that honor both ecological limits and human needs, creating systems that are not merely efficient but also resilient, adaptable, and culturally meaningful. The integration of medieval wisdom with modern capabilities thus represents not just a practical solution to contemporary challenges, but also a philosophical approach to human-environment relationships that emphasizes balance, reciprocity, and long-term thinking.